Hello, everybody. It's Friday, July 16th. Quite a warm day. I'm happy to be here reaching out to you, Fridays with Father. Just a couple of things to share today. This past Wednesday, we celebrated the feast of Saint Kateri Tekakwitha. I'll talk to you about her in a minute. And then next Wednesday, whatever date that is, isn't it crazy? The 21st of July, an ice cream social. So two different things. Anyway, this past Wednesday was the feast of Saint Kateri Tekakwitha, and she was the first Native American to be canonized a saint in the Catholic Church. And so she's kind of a special saint, really, especially for us here in this country, and especially for the native peoples. And she is the patron saint of all native peoples and patron saint of ecology, you know. And I was telling people at Mass here this past Wednesday that, there's a big statue of Saint Kateri outside the cathedral in Santa Fe in New Mexico. And the cathedral is really nice. It's very nice in that sort of, southwestern style. But the statue, I have to say, is not that nice. You know how sometimes where you see statues of saints and you think, something's not right about that, And, first time I saw that statue of Saint Kateri, I thought to myself, something's not quite right. It doesn't really do the saint justice. Not that I know her or knew her. It just looked to me a bit cartoonish, like a Disney character. And I thought to myself, you probably deserve a bit better than that, as the first Native American to be canonized, in this country. So anyway, for what it's worth, her statue is in Santa Fe. Not because she came from there, because she didn't. But she was, part of the Iroquois, really. Her parents were, anyway. Back in the 17th century in sort of upper New York. And during that time, the whole sort of nation was struck by smallpox. And she lost both of her parents to smallpox, And she herself was blighted with smallpox, and she lost, a good part of her sight, and she had lots of facial scars because of that affliction. And so she grew up with that, and she hid her face a lot because, people didn't want to see her. They probably made fun of her. And she was an orphan. She was taken in by her uncle, who was a Mohawk kind of chief. And so she lived with her uncle. And growing up was not easy because she was, in some ways, there was expectations that she would have to get married, and she didn't feel called to that. But she did feel called to the faith that her mother had, which was, the Christian faith. So when she became 19, she converted. She converted to Catholicism, and she took the name Kateri, which was like the native language for the name Catherine. And she chose Catherine after St. Catherine of Siena. And she was converted through the ministry of the Jesuits, or the Black Robes they call them, who are there at the moment missioning the area in North America. And so she became Catholic, but as soon as she became Catholic, her life changed for the worse because of her faith and because of the fact that she didn't want to get married. She was basically treated like a slave, so she had to work as a slave, even in her uncle's house, for those two things: the fact that she didn't want to get married, and the fact that she was Catholic. So life was very difficult. She was abused a lot, and made fun of and ridiculed, but she stuck very close to her faith, and she gave her life to Jesus. And the words of her, really, I mean, there's very little recorded of her, but what she said, but One thing that she did say, I think, is important for all of us to take on board. And she said, I am not my own. I've given myself to Jesus, and I have to love only Jesus. That was what she said, just those three kind of sentences. But most impactful for me was like, I am not my own. In other words, I don't belong to me. She had, from an early age, that sense of detachment from not just from the world, but from who she was, as a person. That she recognized that anything that she had in her life, was a gift from God, and that she belonged to Jesus. She had actively given herself to Jesus and realized that above all she must love him, nobody else, love him. So we celebrate her as a virgin saint because she consecrated herself to Jesus from an early age. And we can't all be virgin saints. I'm not saying that, but I think that spiritual value that she puts on recognizing that, my life doesn't belong to me, it belongs to somebody else because it's been given to me by somebody else on loan. It's something I think we can all take on board, and it's also can be a great source of consolation. I think firstly I want to say that, it's something to take on board because we are used to looking at our lives as if this is my life to live it how I want, and the most important thing for me to do is to do what I want with my life. Well, when you start to sort of, get to know Jesus, and you get closer to knowing Jesus, and you engage in a relationship with Jesus, everything you took for granted, that what matters in my life is that I do what I want, you realize that in some ways how false that is. When you start to give more of your life to Jesus, you realize just how much of it belongs to him, not me. And that's very freeing. So you don't feel the pressure to conform. You don't feel the pressure to be successful. You don't feel the pressure to please other people. And she had that kind of interior knowledge of Christ from a very, very young age, that she didn't have to please her uncle or please the tribesman. She knew that her life really belonged to Christ, and she was happily giving it back to him by the way that she lived. I think we can all take something from that. We all feel like a certain pressure to conform, to do what other people do, to keep up with the Joneses, keeping up good appearances, that kind of stuff. Being successful in my career and comparing it with other people and taking that extra step to be even more successful. And but when you have the interior knowledge that actually my life is not my own, all of those different plans that you put before you, all those different pressures that you put on yourself, they kind of like pale by comparison to the reality of who we are. That my life is not my own. My life is with Jesus, and I belong to him. And so she actively gave herself to Jesus and to nobody else. And that's why she concluded, therefore, he is the one I must love most of all. He is the only one to love. And it's true. It's true. I say to other people, but I say to myself too, is that, if I put Jesus first in my life, then everything else will arrange itself around that. We don't think it will, but it does. We think we're actually sort of like, by putting Jesus first in our life, we're giving up like a whole load of stuff. But actually, by putting Jesus at the center of our life, we get everything we need and more, because the blessings are in abundance. So it's kind of like a strange thing. It's really countercultural because the world would tell you you've got to do all this to be happy and get all this to be happy. And actually, no. Jesus is saying, well, no, you just need to put me there at the center of it all. And I will fill you with the blessings and the graces and the peace and the happiness that you need, and much, much more. Seek ye first, the kingdom of God. And so, Blessed or Saint Kateri Tekakwitha stands before us, at least today, and this past week, as we've honoured her in the church, as somebody who did that at the age of 19. She gave her life to Jesus, really. And then she, had a tough life, and she died at the age of 24. Eventually it became apparent that she could not withstand really the abuses and the persecution of staying with the Mohawks, where she was, discriminated against, and so she was advised to go to a Christian tribe of Native Americans near Montreal in Canada, and so she passed the rest of her life there. But she, at the age of 24, she died. But stands before us as an example of a holy woman, really, who in the smallness of her life achieved great things, and her example is great to us today. So when I said at the beginning, that, I wasn't very impressed by that statue of her outside Santa Fe Cathedral, I stand by it because we have a habit sometimes of making saints into something which is cartoonish, or a bit fake, or a bit, beyond reality, or extraterrestrial, or, something which is not human, really. But somebody like Kateri reminds us that she was just very, very human, and very weak, really. She was not able to stand up to those who abused her, really. But her strength was her faith. And in one of the prayers, when we have preface for martyrs on martyrs' feast days, the words of the prayers are, you choose the weak and make them strong in bearing witness to you, And Kateri wasn't a martyr, but God obviously chose her and made her strong in her weakness. We often think that weakness is a real weakness, but in terms of faith, it's when we are humanly weak, that's where faith can really be our strength. So I give you Saint Kateri Tekakwitha, a real human being, not a cartoon figure, not something which you'd see on Disney. This is not Pocahontas. This is, a real human being who from an early age got to know Jesus, and she put him first in all things. And that's a great, I think, example, and great inspiration for all of us. Certainly to me, I feel very much inspired by Saint Kateri, Tekakwitha, and so I pray to her today for you, as I do for me, that we will find the smallness in our life where we are most weak in order to find Jesus and realize that he is our strength, and that little by little we're able to give our lives more fully to him, and to realize that in some ways it's him above all that we must love. Okay, so that's what's going through my head this week. And while I'm saying that, the other thing that's going through my head is ice cream. Yeah, I've not had ice cream for a while, but I do like ice cream. Yeah, in fact, it's the kind of thing I try not to keep in the house, because I know that I'll be eating it all the time. I'm weak in that sense, that like you put nice things before me, like cake, ice cream, candy, potato chips, all those things. If they're there, I will consume them. I have no control. So anyway, ice cream, yes, and that's a segue into telling you that next Wednesday, July 21st at 6 p.m. here, out in the courtyard, we are having an ice cream social. And you're all welcome to come and to join me for ice cream for as long or as little as you like. You want to just stop by for an ice cream, please do, at 6 p.m. And it's not really a fundraiser, It's free if you like, but I mean, if you want to make a free will donation too, then that would also be a nice thing. But I will be there. Jonah will be there. He's asleep at the moment on the floor. But we'll be there in the courtyard on the 21st of July at 6 p.m. For an ice cream social. And everybody who's watching and beyond, you're welcome to come too. So hopefully I will see you then. In the meantime, as always, be joyful. Keep the faith, and I'll see you at Mass on Sunday. Take care. Bye-bye.